Fancy Bobbie Gentry song. Fancy is a song written and recorded by Bobbie Gentry in 1969. The song depicts its protagonist using prostitution to overcome childhood poverty. Gentry viewed the song as a feminist statement. Fancy is my strongest statement for women's lib if you really listen to it. I agree wholeheartedly with that movement and all the serious issues that they stand for: equality, equal pay, daycare centers, and abortion rights. The country song was a crossover pop music hit for Gentry. It was covered in 1990 by country music artist Reba McEntire on her album Rumor Has It. McEntire's version surpassed the original on the country music charts, reaching the top 10 on Billboard's Hot Country Hits in 1991. Content. The Southern Gothic-style song is told from the perspective of a woman named Fancy, approximately 33 years old, looking back to the summer she was 18. Fancy's plain white trash family, consisting of Fancy, a baby sibling whose gender is not mentioned, and their mother, the father having abandoned them, lived in poverty, a one-room, run-down shack on the outskirts of New Orleans. Her mother is terminally ill and has no way to care for the baby. In a last, desperate act to save Fancy from the cycle of poverty, her mother spends her last money to buy Fancy a red dancing dress, makeup and perfume, and a locket inscribed with the phrase "To thine own self be true." She encourages Fancy to start sleeping uptown, a line not mentioned in McEntire's remake, and to be nice to the gentlemen, Fancy, and they'll be nice to you, saying that this is the only way Fancy will be able to gain financial independence. Fancy recalls her mother's parting words: "Here's your one chance, Fancy, don't let me down, and if you want out, well, it's up to you." Fancy departs, never to return. Shortly thereafter, her mother dies and the baby is placed in foster care. She becomes trapped in her new way of life, her head hung down in shame, and vows to find a way to become a lady someday, though she didn't know when or how. Fancy is taken in off the streets by a benevolent man and begins having relationships with wealthy, powerful men, which she parlays into owning a Georgia mansion and a New York City townhouse flat. In the end, she denounces self-righteous hypocrites who criticize her mother for putting Fancy into that situation. Much of the fictional Fancy story had parallels in Gentry's own life. She too had grown up in poverty in the South, and less than a year prior to releasing the song, she married the casino magnate Bill Harrah in a marriage that would last less than a year. She also cited the film Bobbie Gentry, from which she took her stage surname, as an inspiration for both the song and her personal life. Critical reception. The song was a crossover country and pop hit for Gentry in early 1970. The album containing the song received a Grammy nomination for Best Contemporary Pop Vocal Performance Female. Chart performance. Reba McEntire version. In 1991, Reba McEntire took the song to number 8 on the Billboard country charts. McEntire also produced a popular music video for the song, expanding on the song's storyline. For years, McEntire has anchored her live concerts with the hit, singing the first half of the song in a ragged black mink coat and hat, then removing them to reveal a floor-length red gown for the second half. McEntire has referred to the song as her possible signature hit. The edit of the song heard on most radio stations cuts the song short after 3 verses, before the title character makes it off the streets. Since 1984, Reba wanted to record it, but her producer at the time, Jimmy Bowen, was against it because he believed the song was too closely associated to Gentry. When Reba changed producers to Tony Brown, she was able to record it for her 1990 album Rumor Has It. As of November 2019, The song has sold 760,000 digital copies in the United States. In 2014, a mashup of McEntire's version of Fancy and Australian rapper Iggy Azalea's hit recording of the same title surfaced on the internet. The mashup, which replaces the Charlie XCX sung chorus in Azalea's hit with the chorus from McEntire's Fancy, was reviewed favorably by the country music website tasteofcountry.com. Music video. The music video for the song tells the story of the song itself in more detail. It opens with the title character, Fancy Ray Baker, played by McEntire, riding in a taxi cab and arriving at the site of the small shack on the outskirts of New Orleans where she grew up, which is now abandoned. The video takes something of a creative license with the song, as McEntire's version of Fancy, much like McEntire herself, is a famous singer and actress. The story of the song plays out against the background accompanied by flashbacks of Fancy's past, with her mother and baby sibling playing prominent roles. Near the end of the video, Fancy visits her mother's grave in the backyard of the shack and sees her mother's ghost standing nearby. She tells her that she understands now and forgives her. As the video ends, Fancy departs in her taxi and a large sign is seen in the front yard that says that the property is to be the future home of the Fancy Ray Baker Home for Runaways, dedicated to the memory of her late mother, with the home's motto, "To thine own self be true," the engraving on the locket Fancy's mother gave her before she left, which she threw down before leaving but retrieved at her return and placed on her mother's gravestone. Though the song's lyrics indicate that the events described took place in the summer Fancy turned 18 in the video, the clothing worn by the characters and the surrounding bare foliage would appear to indicate winter conditions in southern Louisiana. The video was actually filmed on a cold, rainy January day a few miles outside Nashville, Tennessee. Chart performance. Certifications. Orville Peck version. In 2020, masked Canadian cowboy crooner Orville Peck released a cover of the song on his show Pony EP. In an interview with country music publication The Boot, Peck notes that his version is inspired by both the Bobbie Gentry original and the 1991 version recorded by McEntire, which Peck also considers an original in its own right. "Liked the high energy of that version when I was a kid especially," Peck explains, although his stripped-down version of the song harkens more toward the Bobbie Gentry record. References in Stephen King's book Duma Key. In Stephen King's book Duma Key, there are some references to this song. In the book, Edgar says he called his doll Reba because the radio in his car played Reba McEntire's song Fancy when he had his accident, and when he forgets his doll's name, he thinks about the song, especially about the sentence, "It was already," from the song. Also, "It was already," when something in the book is read, all because his car radio played the song when the accident happened.